They say every storm ends, but what if the calm that follows is just silence? Tonight, that silence belongs to Jasmine Pineda, the woman who once set the 90-day Fiancé screen on fire, now standing alone at an airport gate. One suitcase, no cameras, no contract, and no way back to America. This is Jessica, and you're watching Reality Spots, where we talk about what really happens when reality stops being entertainment and starts breaking people. Before we go deep, tell me in the comments, when love and survival collide, which one do you choose? Loyalty or freedom? Because that's the choice Jasmine was forced to make. Just weeks ago, she was still fighting for a green card, still posting polished clips of a perfect relationship. But behind those filters, something was crumbling. According to insiders, a secret settlement, a lawsuit worth $70,000, and one final phone call from TLC changed everything. Within 48 hours, Jasmine's work visa was revoked, her storyline cut from the season's finale, and her name quietly removed from every promotional post. The woman who once screamed her truth on camera was suddenly muted. People online called it drama. But to her, it was betrayal. Not just by the network she helped make millions, but by the man she crossed oceans for. Sources close to production claim that Gino sided with TLC's legal team when the scandal broke, handing over private texts and footage. He allegedly said, "I'm just protecting myself," protecting himself, even if it meant destroying her. Now picture Jasmine, sitting alone in a Panama cafe, scrolling through headlines that turned her life into clickbait. The woman who once believed love could rewrite her destiny is reading that she's banned, broke, and done. But here's the twist no one saw coming. Before leaving, Jasmine reportedly left something behind. Something bigger than her luggage or her contract. Recordings. Rumors say she captured private conversations between producers, maybe even a senior TLC executive talking about how to manage her image. If those files are real, they could expose more than just a messy breakup. They could expose the entire machine behind reality television's glossy facade. And that's where our story begins. A woman stripped of her platform but holding the one thing that could bring it all down. A network scrambling to contain the fallout. A partner caught between silence and guilt. What really cost Jasmine her freedom? The lawsuit, the love, or the truth itself? Before the lawsuits, before the leaked recordings, before the heartbreak. That broke the internet. There was Jasmine, the fiery, magnetic, unforgettable Latina who made 90-Day Fiancé impossible to look away from. When she first appeared on our screens, audiences didn't just watch her. They felt her. Every tear, every outburst, every unfiltered emotion. She was raw, passionate, unpredictable, the kind of character producers dream of. Viewers said she brought telenovela energy to a franchise that had started to feel too predictable. TLC knew they'd struck gold, because in the world of reality TV, you don't just cast people, you cast personalities. You find someone whose heart beats loudly enough to echo through a million screens. Someone who can go from crying to laughing in 30 seconds. And that was Jasmine. She wasn't fake. She was real. And ironically, that's what made her perfect for a format built on editing and illusion. From her first scene with Gino, audiences were hooked. The chemistry was explosive, the kind of connection that made fans binge entire episodes just to see what happened next. But behind that fiery romance, there was something deeper. Jasmine's passion wasn't for drama. It was for being understood. She wanted to be loved in her full intensity, not reduced to a meme. But that's not how reality TV works. If you've ever noticed, TLC's editing formula thrives on extremes. The over-the-top lovers, the angry confrontations, the emotional meltdowns that make audiences tweet and rewind. It's the same formula that turned stars like Angela Deem into viral chaos, and chaos sells. Soon, Jasmine's tenderness and intelligence were overshadowed by one word: crazy. Clips were cut mid-sentence, arguments edited out of order, reactions exaggerated with background music that made her look unstable instead of human. Inside sources later claimed producers would warm her up before shooting, pushing emotional buttons, bringing up old arguments, even replaying footage to spark reactions. The goal wasn't to tell her story truthfully, the goal was engagement. And it worked. Jasmine's clips pulled millions of views. Hashtags exploded. TLC's YouTube channel gained record watch time. every emotional breakdown translated to advertising dollars. But for Jasmine, the price was emotional exhaustion. She began to mistrust everyone, even Gino. Behind the scenes, she'd ask to see raw footage only to be told that's not how production works. Small creative disagreements turned into paranoia. Friends say she started journaling after every filming day, just to remember what really happened versus what viewers would later see. The cracks were showing, not just in her relationship, but in her faith in the process itself. And it raises a question that hangs heavy over every so-called reality show. The story takes its sharpest turn when money enters the picture. $70,000. That's the figure that tore Jasmine's world apart. A lawsuit so explosive that even fans who'd seen every meltdown couldn't believe this one was real. It started quietly, the way most disasters do. A few leaked texts, a deleted Instagram post, whispers about contracts and defamation. Then, boom, legal papers hit. Jasmine was accused of breaking her NDA, the kind of document that keeps reality stars silent even when they're hurting. TLC's lawyers claimed she'd spoken out about behind-the-scenes manipulation, something her contract allegedly forbade. Gino's name was attached too, but in a way that made him look like a supporting witness, not a target. Fans were confused. How could a love story that started with tears, laughter, and plane tickets end with lawyers and accusations? The answer lies in fear. When you're under an NDA, you don't own your story. Every word you say, every social media post, every interview can be used against you. It's not about truth, it's about control. Jasmine allegedly felt trapped. After filming Wrapped, she'd tried to defend herself online when fans mocked her or misquoted scenes, but each time she spoke, she risked violating her contract. TLC's insiders claim that even a single emotional rant could be considered damage to brand reputation, and that's where the $70,000 number came from. Not because of one giant mistake, but a buildup of small outbursts, posts, and live videos that the network saw as a pattern of defamation. What hurt more than the lawsuit itself was who stood beside it. Gino, the same man who once promised to protect her, was now allegedly cooperating with TLC's legal team. Publicly, he stayed quiet. Privately, insiders said he was told it was just business, a way to stay in the network's good books, maybe even a path to his own spin-off deal. But for Jasmine, that felt like betrayal. Imagine the person you trusted most suddenly being part of a system that's silencing you. The man who once defended, your tears now holding the pen that signs away your voice. It wasn't just about money, it was about dignity. Psychologically, moments like this trigger two primal instincts: fear and loyalty. Fear tells you to stay quiet, protect what's left. Loyalty tells you to fight for the truth, no matter the cost. Jasmine was caught between both. Sources close to her said she'd started recording voice memos, not for revenge, but to protect herself in case things got worse. She allegedly had hours of behind-the-scenes audio, from heated production calls to private confessions. Whether those recordings were real or rumor, they became the heartbeat of fan theories that she was sitting on proof of her exploitation. TLC, for its part, stayed silent. They didn't deny the legal actions. They didn't confirm them either. But suddenly, old clips of Jasmine started disappearing from official channels. The edit changed, her storyline faded, and fans noticed. It was as if the network was quietly rewriting her out of her own history, erasing the woman they'd once marketed as unforgettable. Meanwhile, Gino was seen smiling on social media, avoiding questions, posting selfies about new beginnings. The contrast was painful. The internet painted him as cold, but those who knew the industry understood the truth. When you're on reality TV, loyalty doesn't pay bills. Contracts do. Still, the timing of the lawsuit felt suspicious. Was TLC trying to make an example out of her? A warning to future cast members who might dare to speak up? Or was it something deeper? A calculated move to shift blame away from the network and onto the woman who'd already lost everything? Whatever the reason, it worked. Jasmine disappeared from the spotlight. Her Instagram went quiet. Her friends stopped answering questions. It was like she'd been erased in real time. But here's where things start to twist again. Because even silence can be a weapon. And Jasmine was about to use hers in a way no one expected. What if those rumored recordings weren't just whispers? What if she was building a case of her own? The storm that began with a lawsuit didn't just stop at courtroom doors. For Jasmine, it quickly turned into a life-or-death scramble, legally, emotionally, and publicly. Local police reportedly arrived at her Michigan apartment one cold morning. Witnesses say she was questioned briefly over a disturbance report linked to ongoing legal disputes. The arrest was short, procedural rather than criminal, but to Jasmine, it felt like the world was closing in. Her visa status, always precarious, suddenly hung by a thread. Without Gino's sponsorship after the alleged legal alignment, immigration flagged her case for review. One wrong move, one missed paper, and she'd be forced out of the country. The media smelled a story and pounced. Clips of her being escorted to the squad car spread online. Fans who had once rooted for her now watched as the chaos unfolded like a slow-motion train wreck. Every post, every comment, every reaction seemed designed to magnify her emotional fracture. Behind the headlines, however, was a woman breaking quietly. This wasn't melodrama. It was exhaustion, betrayal, and fear collapsing into a single unbearable weight. Friends who reached her during that period reportedly described her as withdrawn, haunted, clutching her phone, yet hesitant to answer. Every notification reminded her of what she'd lost. A man she trusted, a career she built, and a home she loved. Retention booster line, and just when you think it can't get worse, insiders say the network may have quietly deleted her scenes from the upcoming season, erasing her from her own story. Rumors started to swirl about leaked emails and production memos. One alleged exchange described executives debating how to spin her silence, turning her misfortune into a cautionary tale for other cast members. Footage supposedly withheld from the public hinted at intense arguments with producers, moments of desperation, and raw vulnerability that never made it to air. Through all this, Jasmine reportedly began documenting everything privately. Voice memos, journal entries, and notes on who said what and when. She was trying to reclaim some control, some evidence that she had been real when the cameras weren't rolling. The public only saw fragments. A tear here, a shaky interview there, but insiders insist the reality was far more devastating. Every day was a new test of survival. Every interaction a reminder that the system she helped elevate could also dismantle her. Then came the ultimate realization. According to friends, she stood in her empty apartment, suitcase in hand, and understood something chilling. Her life, her story, her identity on American soil, it was being erased. Not by accident, not by fate, but by the very people and systems she had trusted. Her flight back to Panama wasn't just a goodbye to a country, it was a confrontation with loss itself. The fame, the love, the career, even her own voice, all slipping through her fingers while the world watched. And in that quiet moment of exile, Jasmine faced the truth everyone else would eventually realize. Sometimes reality isn't about being seen. Sometimes it's about surviving when everyone is trying to make you disappear. After the chaos of her arrest and looming deportation, the story took another twist. In emails. Allegedly, leaked internal messages from TLC executives began circulating online, and suddenly the picture got darker, sharper, and a little absurd. According to insiders, these weren't just emails. They were panic on paper. Producers fretting over brand reputation, legal teams drafting scripts on how to explain Jasmine's disappearance, and executives debating whether to spin the situation as her fault or theirs. One alleged email reportedly read something like, "We can't have her breaking the narrative. Ratings are fine, but perception is everything." Another suggested, "If she talks, spin it as emotional instability. Keep the focus on the drama, not our process." You can almost hear the coffee mugs shaking in the background as they typed. On the other side, TLC's public statement was classic corporate calm. "We value the privacy and well-being of all cast members and do not comment on ongoing personal or legal matters," which, in layman's terms, translates to, "We have no comment, but we are very aware you're watching us sweat." Fans noticed the contrast immediately. The polished PR tone versus the allegedly frantic internal chatter made it feel like watching someone try to do yoga on a roller coaster. The words calm and chaos were practically neighbors in this story. According to insiders, the network quietly began erasing her from the upcoming season. Scenes were cut, storylines rewritten, and clips featuring Jasmine were minimized. It wasn't just about saving face, it was about control. Remove her presence, control the narrative, make the problem disappear. All in the name of the franchise. But the twist is what happened off camera. Leaked snippets and rumors hinted at secret recordings that Jasmine had made in her final weeks in the US. Allegedly, these recordings captured raw phone calls with producers, private conversations about contract disputes, and moments where she confronted the manipulation directly. Fans began speculating. What did she say? What truths were buried? Could one tape prove everything insiders claimed about the network's heavy-handed control? It was enough to keep social media buzzing. Every fan forum, every Reddit thread became a hunt for clues. The suspense built because nobody knew if the recordings were real, partially real, or just exaggerated hearsay, and TLC wasn't confirming a thing. This stage of the story reveals a key truth about reality TV. The machinery behind the cameras is meticulous. Ratings, contracts, legal obligations, brand image, all treated like chess pieces. While the human lives caught in the crossfire are expected to bend, break, or vanish quietly. Meanwhile, Jasmine reportedly kept documenting everything herself. Not to make headlines, but to protect her version of reality. Every memo, every emotional outburst, every unfair cut, she recorded it. In her mind, maybe one day, the story would be told in full. And that brings us to the ultimate question for the next chapter. What secrets lie inside those recordings? Could they rewrite how the public sees this entire saga? Or were they just another layer in a story already full of betrayal, contracts, and heartbreak? Whatever's on those tapes, one thing is clear. The game of reality TV isn't about truth. It's about who controls the narrative. And Jasmine, quietly, might have just held the final card. Then came the whispers everyone had been waiting for. The secret recordings. Clips allegedly captured Jasmine in private moments. Phone calls with producers, voice memos venting her frustration, and raw reflections on her relationship with Gino. Fans didn't just listen, they felt it. The panic, the betrayal, the heartbreak. It wasn't scripted, it was painfully real. The internet exploded. Social media lit up with reactions, theories, and replayed snippets. Comments ranged from, "She was right all along," to, "This proves everything we suspected about TLC." But buried in the frenzy was something more human. Listeners connected to her exhaustion, the way she had been pushed to perform for ratings while trying to navigate real life. It wasn't just drama. It was empathy masked in outrage. And yet, in true 90-Day Fiancé fashion, you couldn't trust the surface. Some posts claimed the recordings were edited or even planted to tarnish reputations. The uncertainty fueled speculation, keeping fans glued to every new leak, every rumor, every subtle hint. Online outrage culture kicked in, as it always does. Memes, reactions, threads dissecting her tone, her pauses, even her breathing. And yes, people cheered for justice while forgetting the human at the center. That's the paradox. Empathy meets entertainment. And somewhere between the comments and retweets, Jasmine's actual story risks becoming a spectacle again. Still, the recordings carried undeniable power. If authentic, they offered a peek behind the curtain, showing a woman exhausted by manipulation, fighting to reclaim her voice, and trying to understand why loyalty and contracts had failed her. They weren't flashy, they were messy, raw, and emotional. And yet, one nagging question lingered as fans replayed them late at night. Were these recordings genuinely hers, or carefully crafted rumors designed to keep the story alive? The ambiguity gave the saga its tension, the kind that makes you lean closer, refreshing feeds, waiting for the next revelation. The recordings promised answers, but instead, they left the world asking more questions. And Jasmine, quietly, was still holding the keys to the truth. Jasmine's life after leaving America wasn't glamorous. Far from the cameras, far from the contracts, she returned to Panama, where the quiet was both a relief and a reminder of everything she'd lost. Friends say she spent weeks in isolation, processing betrayal, navigating panic attacks, and slowly trying to rebuild a sense of normalcy. Therapy, family support, and daily journaling became her lifelines. Every day was a small step toward reclaiming control over her story. Yet even in exile, fame's shadow lingered. Every news clip, every reposted video, every fan theory reminded her that her life had been public property. The addiction to attention, the pressure to perform, didn't disappear overnight. It simply changed shape. She had to learn to separate her worth from the audience's applause, something most reality stars never truly manage. Meanwhile, Gino's life carried on differently. Social media showed calm, curated posts, vacations, and luxury purchases. No outbursts, no raw emotion, just the polished reality of someone seemingly unaffected by the chaos that had unraveled around him. Fans noticed, criticized, theorized, but he remained silent. The contrast was stark. One life in quiet reflection, the other in public composure. But the story wasn't over. Months after her deportation, reports surfaced of a secret visit. Gino allegedly flew to Panama under the radar, meeting Jasmine in a quiet cafe. Witnesses described tense exchanges, emotional moments, and conversations that left onlookers bewildered. What was the purpose of this meeting? Was it reconciliation, negotiation, or something more calculated? The world didn't know, and Jasmine, even in her privacy, wasn't revealing everything, and that quiet encounter left fans asking the most pressing question. Why did Gino really go there? And what did he hope to gain from seeing her in person? For Jasmine, life was a balancing act, healing, protecting her truth, and deciding what parts of her story she would share, and when. Her journey showed that even after the cameras stop, the aftermath of reality TV fame doesn't fade. It lingers, sometimes in silence, sometimes in the unexpected shadows of people from her past. The calm of Panama, the whispers of secret recordings, and Gino's quiet movements kept the tension alive. One thing was clear, even far from the U.S., Jasmine's story was still unfolding, and no one could predict the next move. Months after the deportation, whispers of a clandestine meeting in Panama surfaced. Gino reportedly flew in quietly, avoiding cameras and public attention, to meet Jasmine at a small, out-of-the-way cafe. Witnesses say the encounter was tense, charged with emotion, and painfully awkward. Friends nearby noticed Jasmine crying, gesturing, and holding firm, while Gino appeared calm, almost unreadable, weighing every word carefully. From one perspective, Gino's visit could be seen as an attempt to reconcile, to explain, or even to settle outstanding disputes. From another, it looked like damage control, a strategic move to finalize contracts, manage public perception, or protect the network's interests. Neither side offered clarity, leaving fans and insiders speculating endlessly. Reports suggest legal and financial negotiations were on the table. Gino allegedly tried to offer money, a settlement to close disputes quietly, but Jasmine reportedly refused. This wasn't about cash. It was about autonomy, dignity, and reclaiming the narrative that had been stolen from her. Her stance reflected a woman unwilling to be silenced, despite the pressures from former partners and networks. And in a moment that cut through all the tension, Jasmine reportedly said simply and firmly, "I don't want your money. I want my voice back."